Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Rivenme.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a heroic TV show or movie. And this week on the podcast, we're talking about a new one.
We're talking about a new one, The Creator.
The Creator.
The Creator.
The titular creator.
Or the.
The.
Or the.
Ooh, yeah, do you go the or the?
Ooh, now I'm overthinking it a little
It's
bit.
It's the. Yeah, the is the two E's. Two E's is on the.
I guess.
Although I guess sometimes
just say the.
Yeah.
Oh, have I just blown your mind grammatically?
Yeah, because I know that you can have like an Old English the with two E's and then it's always
Oh, yeah. It's always the.
You see,
two E's, it's a the.
You see that and you're like, that's a fucking the right there. But sometimes THE is the, and sometimes it's the.
Sometimes it's the. I would agree that this is The Creator because now I'm like, it's The Batman. And I don't know why those are the same to me.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The Batman, The Creator? I don't know.
The
I might
Creator
want to.
actually sounds not wrong.
It feels better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. We're going to have to talk to Gareth Edwards, the writer-director of The Creator.
Absolutely. Or we're going to have to put out some kind of like an online poll to be like, do any of you, like, how do you say this in your head? Because I feel like there's got to be some kind of like.
That's going to be the hardest poll ever.
Yes.
Just the word the twice.
Well, like you'd have to phonetically be like, in your head, do you hear the or the? You'd have to throw you'd have to throw the old English the in there, in order to clarify. But we're talking about The Creator.
I think we have to stop saying the title or say it all the time.
Creator. We're talking about that movie, Creator.
Old Creator.
Yeah, new film that just recently came out. We're going to be talking about that today on the podcast. As we do anytime we discuss a new TV show or movie, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. So in case you're on the fence about seeing it, want our opinion before you decide whether or not it's worth your time, or maybe you're on your way to a theater to watch it right now and you just want a taste of the episode, whatever your reason might be, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. Then once you hear the theme music, that is going to be when we enter the spoiler-filled section. So let's start with the spoiler-free review. Let's start with the usual, the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
I liked it fine. This is a weird movie because I think it's fine to actually maybe even good, but at the same time, like it's visually gorgeous. The VFX are flawless. It is a beautifully filmed and VFXed movie. It looks great, and John David Washington is phenomenal. But then after that, I kind of only have criticisms about it and questions, and nothing even like not in a way that it's like I'm thought provoked and I like have really started to question things and it really shone things in a new light. Mostly I'm just questioning like the world building. So it's this weird thing where I'm like, I actually think it was fine to good, but I don't have many positive things to say about it, which is a really weird place for me to be in a movie. I appreciate that it takes a swing in a way, but also it kind of like doesn't. If you've seen the trailers, this is a movie about AI, but I actually don't think it's about AI at all. The AI is an allegory. So it's not like a topical, like everyone's talking about AI movie that's going to really like open eyes about AI in any way. So it's visually stunning. It looks so good. And then, there's like, it's not bad at any point, but I really like wasn't having a great time is kind of the most I can say about this movie at this point. Andrew, how do you feel about whatever Creator? The or the.
The or the. I hear everything that you're coming from. I'm probably going to agree with all of your criticisms. I really liked it to near love.
To near love.
I'm
wow.
at a near love. I agree that visually it is incredible.
Looks
this movie
amazing.
Looks great. The vibes are right. Like this does very little that is, and I mean this as a compliment. This does very little that is new, but this is one of those properties that takes like the 10% of sci-fi world building that a bunch of other things already did right and combined them together. So like the vibes, just like the guns, the ships, the world, the television, the way everything looks and the costumes, the way everything is done in this none of it is like, I've never seen that done before. But everything is, I'm like, I've seen that before in Blade Runner, in District 9, in Aliens. But you took all of these aesthetic elements that work and brought them all together. This is really like a nice mosaic aesthetically of all of the looks and styles of everything that's worked in sci-fi.
I can completely agree with that because it's set in 2065 and the world feels cohesive and understandable for how many places we go and how many points of view we see.
Yeah.
It does feel like one continuous world that is made of other smaller things, but it is a really nice world build. Even things we don't have, like hover ships that are also planes, but they're also over water, that are just like kind of seamlessly inserted.
Yes.
And like feel like they're part of the world.
And everything feels like a world that all of these people actually live in as
That's
well,
true.
which I really enjoy. So like the vibes are right, the aesthetic is really good. Where this movie both loses me and wins me over is that I think that this movie is wildly shallow. It is very shallow. It is wafer thin in terms of the depth that the theme and the plot and what this has to say. For a movie that's like, we're about creation and what is sentience and AI and its effect on society. And it has just nothing to say. It is puddle deep. It is wildly shallow. So because of that, it has nothing to say, and it doesn't accomplish anything, and it doesn't really go anywhere or do anything special when it could have. But that's also kind of a strength for me because it's shallow, and I feel like it's aware of that because I am getting tired of like the Christopher Nolan's recent work where it's just like, look how deep my sci-fi is. And it's like
the previous John David Washington film.
Exactly. Tenet, but even like going like to Inception and Interstellar and like these Christopher Nolan pieces that are like, no, I'm not making shallow stuff. I'm making deep stuff. It's like, no, up its own ass and having a lot of exposition and a lot of weird world building and going nowhere, but doing it in the most complicated way possible isn't deep, And I feel like there are a lot of things out there in science fiction that think it's deep and isn't. This doesn't think it's deep. I don't get the impression. This is wildly shallow, and it's kind of okay with that, where it's just like, we have very little to say, but please come along with us. We're going to say a soft thing or two and then move forward. And I don't know. I don't know if the writing sucks or is self-aware. I honestly don't know.
I think I get what you're saying because as I said, like walking into this movie knowing it's about AI, you think it's going to be about the things we talk about today with AI, like taking jobs and taking art and like how does society function if we can't work and like all the problems people have with AI. And that's not what this movie is about. This movie is just the AI characters are an allegory for literally anyone from another country and don't bomb them.
Yeah.
Stop bombing people is basically, to me, the theme of this movie, which is shallow, but good.
Yeah, but
Good
mine,
theme.
don't hurt people, is the most controversial thing to say that this movie has.
Yeah, but which isn't very deep, but it's nice.
Yeah.
Got no problem with stop bombing people.
But it does it in a better vibe, tone, and energy than say something else we've criticized recently, which was like Avatar: Way of the Water, a 3-hour billion-dollar epic, and the most powerful thing it has to say in a movie about colonization is whaling is bad.
Yeah.
And this is a movie that was an affordably made movie that has a breezy runtime that is just like, you shouldn't kill. And honestly, like the movie's just like, we're not even trying to make it any deeper than that, and we're not going to lie to you.
I will give the movie credit for at least giving it the depth of the people who want to kill the most are the Americans, a thing Avatar does not do.
Yes.
Avatar is like humanity's lumped as one thing and the Na'vi are lumped as another thing. And this movie is very much like, no, there's one particularly bad country.
And it's America.
It's America.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's
Interesting.
I'm on board for the vibes. I do agree that it is shallow, and I have a bunch of criticisms about how just wafer thin, puddle deep shallow that this movie is. Mm-hmm. But aesthetically it's really good.
I don't know what the budget of this movie is, but for a new IP, God, it looks incredible.
We'll talk about that we can talk about that in the spoiler fill section for sure. And can it be spoiled?
I don't know, maybe. It doesn't. Not really, because, like, you're going in blind. It's not based on anything. So I guess much as any other movie that's brand new, yeah, it's not like I can be like, it's like this comic book. Like, it's the Civil War arc or something. It is just like, it's a brand new movie.
Yeah, and it's also, it's not based on its twists. There are a couple of twists, but it's like, I don't really think it makes the movie.
No, it's not based on its twists at all.
There are a couple things we can spoil for you, but I really don't think that it hurts the appreciation of the film. Yeah.
I will agree.
Sweet. So we're a mixed bag. We're a soft like
I'm a soft like,
to, I think, very good.
but we're also like not disagreeing on any particular points, which is.
If any fans of the podcast like hit us up on social media and was like, "This sucks,"
I wouldn't disagree either.
I'd be like, "Yeah, it actually does kind of suck. You got me."
I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't need to save this. My Fitbit registered me as asleep for an hour long of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna say that much about it. So if you think it sucked, so did my Fitbit or my heart. I don't know which one.
Yeah, whatever it might be. Yeah, it's one of those movies where I'm like, I really liked it, and at the slightest pushback, I will fold this movie, just throw it right under a bus.
Might do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We might, at the end of this movie, we might be like, never mind, it fucking stank.
If a friend I look up to a little bit thinks this movie sucks, I'm probably gonna switch my whole opinion, because I'm pretty lightly in the I really like it category.
Now I want all your friends to see this movie to find out whose opinion you value the most.
The friendship test.
The friendship test scale of like, oh man, who will Andrew bend to?
Who will it be? We will talk more about the creator in just a moment. We'll get into our spoiler-filled section, but before we do, we want to thank our sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Mint Mobile.
We want to thank our friends at Mint Mobile for making it so easy and affordable to have a phone plan.
Breezy, I'm going to call it.
Oh, so breezy, so beautiful, so wonderful. You're not locked in with these like incredible fees that just keep popping up out of nowhere, or like being told you have to get a new plan, but it's the same stuff, but now it's more expensive. Not at Mint Mobile.
When things, yeah. Sometimes, like, I've had that before where it's like, oh, your plans changed. Why? It's like, go to hell. That's why. I'm like, why are these other companies like this?
Or if you want to get a new phone, they're like, oh yeah, your plan's going to be way more expensive now.
Everything is a mess. And not only is it a mess, but things at other big mobile providers are confusing and a mess. But at Mint Mobile, it's just $15 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data. Just $15 a month. And it's easy and it's so simple to set up. Like on their website, when I was setting up my Mint Mobile package, I was like, oh, I understand how all of this works. There's no triple talk. I didn't need to go into a brick and mortar store and have something explained to me in detail because I was confused, because I wasn't confused, because the website was laid out clearly and properly, and I had a real easy time.
Real easy time. It's really clearly what's happening. And also, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts, so you don't have to buy into a big wireless whatever they're trying to sell you. It's like, no, you got your phone. You can get a great plan from Mint Mobile easily online. You can either get an eSIM, which is wildly easy, or they can mail you a SIM card.
Yeah, that was my first experience with eSIM. I was like, oh, this is cool that we can do this now. Yeah. So that's pretty dope.
The world's electronic, you guys.
All plans come with unlimited talk, text, high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. So to get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/TFS. That's mintmobile.com/TFS. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/TFS. And thank you, Mint Mobile, for your support.
Thank you, Mint Mobile.
And now let's get into the spoiler-filled section of the episode. Let's talk more about the creator.
The creator.
All right, let's talk more about the creator. $100 million.
That's how much this movie
is
cost?
What I read the budget of it was.
Whoa, that's not that much money.
That is not a lot of money.
I mean, like, it's a lot of money, but like in this day and age,
we couldn't bankroll it. But in terms of movies, that's not a lot of money.
That's not a lot of money. And this CG is so crisp and consistent. Like, there's not a single shot where I was like, oh, this one got rushed or this one looked bad. And like, every scene has CG. Like
Yeah.
John David Washington has bionic limbs. There's are we calling them AI or cyborgs or androids? There's people with gears in their heads.
The Sims, I think, is what they
The
call
Sims.
them. The Sims.
Well, that's a game.
That is a game. Yeah. But the
Simulants, I guess.
Yeah.
So the Sims are in every single scene. There's full-on robots who don't look like humans in every scene, who are interacting and wearing clothes and like moving stuff around. There's ships and guns and
credible spaceships.
credible spaceships. Yeah, there is so much CG in this, and it looks so real and so good. And there's not a single moment where I remembered it was CG.
Yeah. Yep.
Like throughout this whole movie, I'm like, this is all real.
100 million.
Every moment. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That is literally like an independent rom-com costs 25. So like to do a blockbuster, like
is
a
4
big
train wrecks.
blockbuster movie. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely it is. So that's wild to do on that budget. And reading about some of like how it was made, and I'm always a little bit reticent to talk about this type of thing because sometimes it's like 2 weeks after the film comes out, like there's some article that's just like, it turns out everyone was miserable and it all sucked. But as of the recording of this podcast on September 30th, 2023, it seems...
Note the time?
It is 9:48 p.m.
Excellent.
Eastern time. It seems pretty chill. It seems like part of the reason why they were so successful in making it on this budget and it looking phenomenal is that this was filmed with consumer grade cameras. Like this was filmed on cameras that like I could go get at Best Buy tonight.
Oh, like in those like Apple commercials where like these were filmed on an iPhone.
Yeah, kind of like that, but
To show you how good it could be.
to show you how good
But like better than that.
So these were consumer grade cameras, which
Okay.
means it was small and compact and run and gun. So Gareth Edwards was like, if we save money there and we have a smaller set, we can actually film on locations. So they actually filmed on locations more affordably because they did it on small consumer grade cameras.
Okay.
And then as well, they had full completed picture lock before it ever went to a visual effects studio.
Oh,
So the film was
huge.
edited and finished, and it went to a studio that was like, here is the 2 hour and 10-minute cut of this movie. Here are all the scenes that you need to make work and what you need to do. Come back to us when it's done.
Yeah, we will have no edits. We will
Yeah.
have no cuts.
As opposed to what happens on your typical Marvel movie that comes out now. It's like they're done filming, they do reshoots, they're doing editing. Visual effects are happening simultaneously, then they film another scene and there's inconsistent. So it's just like everything's happening at the same time and it makes everything worse. And visual effects studios have to make visual effects for 4 hours of footage that never make it into the movie. So this was, here's the final cut, make it look good.
Love that. I love that. That feels very similar to I don't think he does it quite like Picture Lock hand in, but James Gunn very much is like from day one I know where you need the VFX and you can get started on it the first day of filming. I will not change anything. I wrote and directed the movie, so don't even worry about it. I'm in charge of both.
Yeah.
Very similar to that. Great vibes.
Great vibes.
I mean, it also explains why the movie took a while. I think I read they started this in like 2018 or something.
Oh,
and like
okay.
wasn't delays, just like this
Just
is
took
just
a
how
minute.
long it took.
Great.
Turned out great.
It looks phenomenal.
It looks really great. There's a couple scenes that are just like slightly too dark, but I think we've said that about our theater before. I cannot tell if we have a bad theater.
I
some
actually
movies
didn't
are
even
too-
think any of these were too dark. I'm like, this was moody in the right way, where even when it was dark, I was like, you had nice candlelight in certain areas, like the background was lit really. It would. I thought it looked great.
It wasn't too dark a lot of the time. I would say the first act, just because I think the first act hadn't differentiated enough to me how I can tell the robots apart from humans. And it was like a lot of dark like battle scenes and like the raid at night. And I was like, I don't know who I'm going for. I can't see these fights. So the first act did have like kind of 3 battle scenes in a row that were too shadowy for me as a first-time viewer to be like, I don't know if I just shot a robot or a human or who I'm rooting for. But then after that, it was very clean and clear.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
it's a slight criticism.
I
But
can-
I do believe that I do agree that you could see everything.
I can get on board with that. I think that opening battle scene was meant to be chaotic.
Yeah,
so
it
I think it
was.
was meant to be like who is even going where and what is going on. But I get that it is a little dark and shadowy.
I mean, I think in that first scene, I couldn't even tell Ken Watanabe was a sim. He was shown so quickly in the house and everything, and because Gemma Chan was a human, so I'm like, which ones are humans then? Are there robots here? I'm confused by this opening scene.
And John David Washington has a robotic arm and leg. He has 2 robotic limbs, but
Yeah.
isn't a sim.
Yeah, and they haven't established that difference yet. So
Yeah.
I'm like, is this a Blade Runner situation where I don't know if you are a robot or not?
Yeah.
But then the movie does make it very clear that if you're a sim, you have like no blood or anything. You just have flesh over a robot body.
Yes, you just got a little bit of a front face.
Yeah, you got a front face and maybe like your arms and stuff.
You got some arms.
You got some arms.
Yeah.
But you're all gears inside.
Yeah. You're all geared up. So it looks good, and not on top of like it looking good from a visual perspective of like well shot, well laid out, well lit, kind of distinctive, cool looking moments. The world aesthetic, the props and everything, I think look really good. This retro futurism, which I am sometimes kind of a sucker for, this like touchscreen tube televisions at times. I'm like, I really like the style of this. Like they're inventing AI, and the movie starts with like this like air quote archival news footage of everything happening. But it's happening in like the year 2023, but it looks like it was like filmed on a film reel camera at the UN in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's just this like the timelines are a bit off, but the aesthetics of it really work for me. I really dig that.
Yeah, I also think that's really cool because like, it's like it has to be more advanced because you've got walking robots who have emotions. And it's also set in the future. But because of a nuking, you can kind of say some technologies have gone back.
Yeah.
Like a worldwide EMP goes off with a nuke. Like, so some technologies in some places are going to have this weird mishmash of old and new tech. The world's going to develop differently because of that.
I didn't even get that impression. I got the impression that like the timeline of this movie is
Was not the same as ours?
Yeah. This isn't our Earth in the future. This isn't like an imagining of like our Earth in the year 2058. This is an imagining of like our Earth, but in the year like 1992, we developed AI. Because that's why it's like there's AI in what looks like a 1980s Chevrolet and like that type of shit. And it's like, and why one of the plot points is that this child can connect to other machines. Like machines don't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. The idea of wireless technology doesn't exist. So it's almost like this world where it's like programming and circuitry exists, but wireless networking was never invented. So this really feels like a completely alternate human timeline.
Oh, see, maybe I get what you're saying because I actually had that as a fault of this movie. I'm like, this is the first kid with Wi-Fi. This fucking sucks. It seemed really dumb. I'm like, you guys are robots and you can't like send messages mentally. Like people have phones.
This feels like it's wild that this is an original IP, which I love also. It's exciting.
I actually am really excited that like original IP got a lot of money.
Really great stuff. But not only is it that exciting, but it does feel like this has such based on a book vibes for many reasons, one of which is this aesthetic that they have. It feels like it's based on a sci-fi book that was written in the 70s.
Oh, before they had
of the
Wi-Fi.
idea of like they've conceptualized what a robot and what a robot thinking is, but not what wireless network connectivity is. So it feels like that. And I kind of like the idea of making that today. It doesn't feel like a mistake. I do agree it's a bit of a plot contrivance and kind of a dumb way to resolve that. But zooming out big picture, I like the idea that this world creates of we've created sentience and we've created circuitry based on our scans of human brains, but we never developed network connectivity.
I can get behind that. Yeah, it's weird that it's not based on something in that regard then. But yeah, if there was like an original series Star Trek episode where they were like, whoa, this robot can control things from a distance, I'd be like, oh, shit, yeah, of course you wouldn't know about Wi-Fi. You don't really do that even on Star Trek.
Yeah.
You have to like hit the buttons with your hands.
Yeah.
You don't even talk to the computer much in original Star Trek, I don't think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying.
But I'm not trying to sell you on it. I do agree that it's also, at the same time, the way they use that is dumb.
Yeah,
but I
because
like the idea.
When you get to like, I think the American technology, especially, it feels like there's Wi-Fi. Like it's much more touch screens. Everything's more electronic. Like getting a flight to the moon is completely electronic. That came out of fucking nowhere. This is my first big negative. Is the moon
That
shuttle.
was idiotic. That was idiot.
For
Take
a-
the floor. Take the floor.
Okay, I will agree that this movie had a great consistency and a world building that felt completely real. And then I think like halfway through the third act, they introduced moon colonies and like lunar ships that constantly shoot into space. And Andrew and I looked at each other like, this isn't part of this world. We both could feel it instantly that this moon stuff was not part of this world. It felt like setting up a sequel or something. Like, there's people on the moon. I'm like, well, is there AI on the moon? Like, are we going to blow up the Earth and, like, humans are going to live on the moon? This is a totally different storyline you've just introduced. If this kid can just take over regular planes, why is this plane going to the moon? What is happening? So that whole moon lunar sequence, I was like, are you saying if this kid didn't change anything, this regular plane was just going to go to the moon, but we don't have Wi-Fi?
Hey, we went to the moon without Wi-Fi.
Fuck, you got me there. We went to the moon without Wi-Fi. we didn't do it commercially.
We went to the moon with 15 kilobytes of computer processing power. Moon is surprisingly not that computer intensive.
You know what? You got me there. As long as you got a good plane.
Yes.
You can probably
Yeah.
just go to the moon. But yeah, the whole moon colony thing and moon travel was like, it didn't feel like it fit in any way.
And especially when this movie, up until that point, had done a pretty good job of being like, we've come up with ways to kind of tell you about the world as you experience it. But and even in a movie where it's like at the beginning we have archival news footage, and there was never any seeding to be like, and today in moon news. None of that.
And like they wouldn't have just called it moon news, but there's plenty of news happening in the background, or like people leaving Earth to get rid of AI, or we're worried AI are sneaking onto the moon planes.
And never bringing up whether AI sim people are on the moon, because the whole Earth is at war. It is America versus New Asia. And it is just like America's banned AI, New Asia hasn't, and they're at war basically, or like a secret, like underground war. But no one brings up the moon and whether or not they're up there or the moon has banned them. Like it seems like the moon would be a great place for like I don't like, even want to get into the whole moon thing. What's going on the moon?
Who's got the moon technically colonized if you're living up there? Which country?
It honestly...
I don't remember the real name of Man versus Space.
For all mankind.
For all mankind. I'm so sorry.
A wonderful show that I love that Diana calls Man versus Space.
And I genuinely forgot the title. I'm so sorry. But like that show is so like, it's about space and the moon and who owns the moon and colonizing the moon. So the second they were like, oh, just as a quick aside, we go to the moon all the time.
Yeah, also moon.
You can like, Lance Bass is up there every second weekend. He fucking loves it on the moon.
Loves it up there. And it really does feel like or there's a bucket that is the size of Lance Bass that we have on the moon, whatever we might need to do.
You guys don't know about the Lance Bass bucket?
Oh, if you're a Gen Z listening to this, most of that was nonsense. And also most of what we do most of the time is still nonsense. But yeah, it comes out of nowhere. And it does feel like when they were writing the script, a note came in that was like, how does John David Washington's character Joshua, if Joshua is up on the Nomad spaceship, how does he have where did he get a spacesuit? And it just like someone made that note, and in reply they added to the script, I don't know, there's colonies on the moon, that's where he was headed. And it feels like just a quick first pass to resolve a problem or an inconsistency, and I don't feel like it needed to be like that.
Did not need to be like that. Yeah, because the parts where he needed air were kind of inconsequential.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary for all of this. The Nomad could have just been in a lower orbit where there's air.
Yep.
Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. It could have been like a regular Earth flight that now flights go up higher than usual and they have space suits on the flights or whatever.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Anything like that.
I agree.
In case of AI, put on spacesuit.
Put on spacesuit.
In case of AI.
In case of AI. So yeah, I agree. The moon coming out of nowhere was truly one of the most idiotic things that this movie has to offer. But also like this movie, it's just, to get into the writing a little bit for a minute, it's just kind of shallow. It just doesn't have anything to say, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, there's a thing on the moon, and there's John David Washington has to take care of a kid. This falls into the general genre of reluctant man looks after child, which is a common genre of film and television, it would seem. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Don't kill people is the whole thing that they have to say.
Don't kill people is the whole thing they have to say. Yeah, this is a poor done version of a story that's been done many times, which is reluctant man takes care of child. It's kind of similar, I would say, to maybe like T2, where you have to like a robot and a human have to bond.
Yeah.
But T2 is so phenomenal at the robot and human bonding. And this doesn't really happen here. Like at no point, this movie kind of does itself a disservice. John David Washington is incredible. But John David Washington's character is so focused on finding his human wife, Maya, that I actually genuinely never feel like he cares about this kid and really is just using her to find Maya.
Yeah.
At the very end, he like loves the kid and is protecting her. But like throughout this movie, I'm like, I don't feel that you are connecting or that you're having like charming like Last of Us moments where your relationship is building. And it's weird because John David Washington is so good in this. I think he is wildly charismatic, so easy to watch, so like you just look at him and you're like, he's here, he's energetic and he's magnetic.
The word I wrote down was captivating.
Ooh, captivating is a great word to describe him.
He has his father's, like, you could read the dictionary, and I'm like, this is an absolute legend doing it.
Yeah, he can just be sitting there and you're like, I can't look away.
Yeah.
I get why
captivating.
Gemma Chan fell for you. Like, I understand completely how this all happened. I know why they sent you undercover, because anyone who was attracted to men would have been like, I can't look away from this guy. Absolutely incredible. But yeah, I don't feel any connection between him and this kid. So it's really just a lesser done story of like previously reluctant.
It kind of exists
father
in
figures.
The way they have this character written in terms of these like genre pieces. It exists in this no man's land in between like Harrison Ford in Blade Runner and like Pedro Pascal in Last of Us.
I was gonna say Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
Also Pedro Pascal.
But in that sense of like, there are times where this character feels like they're playing it as like a Blade Runner of like, I hate this, I'm tired, and I sincerely do not give a fuck about what any of these metaphors have to say about society, which is like kind of how Harrison Ford plays that character, where it's just like, I'm just fucking tired. Fuck off with whether or not we're real.
Yeah.
And Pedro Pascal plays Joel as like, I'm tired, but I do actually have a lot of love to give. And this is just in that no man's land in between, where it's like they didn't want to make him fully unlikable as the guy who takes care of a kid, but also they didn't go all in on them bonding either. And it just ended up being a bit of the worst of both worlds for where that character lies.
Yeah, this movie is, I think, done a slight disservice in the fact that it's not a commentary on AI today, because like the movie, I think, kind of just assumes that because the AI looks like humans, you're going to connect with them. But like it also makes so many AI that are just robots. And in this day and age, like right now, everyone is like, AI is just theft. It's just human ideas put into a computer. So literally, as I was watching this, which is not a feeling I would have probably even 6 months to a year ago, I'm like, yeah, these are all robots. Kill them all. I do not care. I'm exactly John David Washington at the beginning of this movie, and I have no personal arc like he does that they are humans at the end. At the end, like, I don't have any urge to kill them, but I'm like, yeah, they're robots. And I think that's most highlighted by the fact that the ones that don't have skin, you definitely don't mind killing.
Yeah.
But the second you put some skin on them, you're like, oh my God, they're so human. I'm like, it's a robot with skin.
Just skin robot.
It's just skin robot. It's just programming. So like the not having anything to say about current day AI is kind of like a detriment to the film, in that I care less about the characters and the movie is assuming I will.
I 1,000% agree. I 1,000% agree. And I think that this movie is going to become a joke. I am actually flat out. I had a great time watching this. I have a lot of criticisms about it, but I had a great time, and I think there's a lot of good stuff here. But I'm reticent to even admit that I liked this movie because I do think that this movie is going to become, I'm going to say within 3 months, a movie that it is embarrassing to admit that you liked, because this movie is going to become a literal joke because it is so shallow. What this movie has to say is that killing people for being different than you is wrong. That's what this movie has to say. It is something sci-fi has been saying since the invention of science fiction, which is we have inserted a parable about human society today based in a futuristic setting, replace robot with nationality, race, religion, and that's the metaphor that we are telling. I think that there are going to be a lot of very dumb people who still misunderstand the incredibly shallow morality of this movie to mean that AI is great and we should adopt it. So I do think this is going to become the bro movie of to be like, man, that movie really got it right. Remember in that movie when Allison Janney was like, they are to us what we were to Neanderthals. It's like, yeah, you got to get on board with AI. They're our evolution. They're the next step in us. And it's like, this movie even admits to be mad at AI is racist. And it's like, no, that's a metaphor about actual prejudice that exists today. So I think that this movie is puddle deep, and it's still going to be misunderstood, and that is going to lead to this becoming an absolute joke of a movie because people are going to think that this movie means AI is
the
good.
opposite of what it.
And it's not what it means
not
at
what
all.
it's not even what it's trying to say.
No.
It was a movie written before AI was really even on the radar of most people. Like that's like saying the Haley Joel Osment movie Artificial Intelligence is about how AI is good, but that is a movie just about humanity and not really about robots.
Yes.
Like the definition of love.
This is going to be like the blockchain version of Fight Club.
I was just about to say Fight Club is the most misunderstood film.
In the way that dumb dudes were like, yeah, this movie gets it. We should be punching each other in a basement. Is that that same type today will see this movie and be like, yeah, this movie gets it. I really should be able to make my AI script. It's like, no, it's not.
We're wrong to bomb them. Yeah, embrace AI.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you got to learn how to code and write and draw yourself, buddy.
Yes.
Sorry, those are skills you just need to develop
or you need to hire people who know how to do those skills.
No stealing.
Yeah, no stealing, please. And it just, I think that like the last thing that I want to say on the shallowness of it is that when this movie does occasionally feel, frankly, like icky, like it goes from like, oh, it's a little shallow, whatever, to like, this might be inappropriate, is that good science fiction, when it's a metaphor about how we treat one another, can really like make us think and change and evolve as a people. I think that is one of the power of not just science fiction, but all stories, which is to make us recontextualize our lives and how we deal with one another. And I think that if you get too shallow with that, it becomes belittling of what the actual human experience is. And I've always had this thing where, like, I call it the example I use that I've made up in my head is this imaginary thing. I call it the Rosa Sparks line, where it's like there is this line that some science fiction crosses where they're just like, check it out. This character's named Rosa Sparks. She's a robot that we make sit on the back of the robot bus. Do you even get it? And I'm like, I get it. And actually, this kind of demeans us all that you've kind of gotten like, and that was.
I don't know how Rosa Parks would feel about Rosa Sparks.
So I feel like that is when shallow science fiction is at its shallowest, it feels that level of like it's belittling of actual human struggle up until now.
Yeah.
And it feels like it might be disingenuous and also just like kind of taking advantage of real life problems and sympathy.
I get what you're saying, because here's my this is a weird, not weird, difficult thing for me to say as a Canadian, but this was my read on this movie.
Oh, okay.
This movie actually kind of felt to me like an allegory for 9/11.
Interesting. I felt they were going for a Vietnam thing, but
okay. I was well, like, a U.S. city got bombed, got attacked,
certainly,
and then they went and they need to find the one person who was responsible for it, the creator.
Oh, and it was all the
also
false flag mission.
And they also started just bombing the shit out of them.
Right.
And they didn't want them in their country anymore. So this actually felt very like 9/11 response to me.
Huh, yeah.
It was very American centric. It was very similar what's being compared here as an allegory. And in that way, I think you're right, where I'm like, I don't think we should say Muslim people are robots.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel good if I'm right about where this allegory came from, which is what I read from the film.
Sure.
Of like, a huge response to an attack.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can get on board with your Rosa Sparks theory of like, yeah, I guess you've taught a very basic lesson that I don't think anyone who needs to learn the lesson will take, and just kind of offends the people who you're trying to help.
Yes. Yeah, I fully get that. I completely agree with you that I see what you're saying of like, it is definitely doing 9/11 reactionary Iraq war stuff while using like the visual iconography of the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
in
kind of
terms
a mix of both.
Yeah, in terms of its setting and how and its style and what it's going for. But yeah, it's kind of a mix of both. But I 100% see and agree with that. I think that's a great observation.
Thank you. Yeah, but then in some ways, this movie doesn't feel like it gets America at all, because like, they say the AI attacked them, and then America was like, so we banned AI completely. And I've never really known America to ban the things that kill a lot of Americans.
Yeah. Not really a thing that they are known for.
Not really. Every other country in the world, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
They're like, oh yeah, when a bunch of people get killed by a thing, we ban it. Not really America's strong suit.
No.
So I actually kind of expected this movie to flip it and be like, no, they run all of our machineries and they make us a lot of money, so we kept the AI.
Interesting.
And like, I think America would keep them on lockdown, because there's a very minimal plot about how the AI have to like buy out their contracts to get their freedom. It's only mentioned in like passing one time. But then the rest of the movie, the AI are like, we want our freedom. And I'm like, you have like a gun and you're a robot. Aren't you free? Like, you all seem
Someone gave a robot a gun.
You all seem
That's super free.
You have a house. You're allowed to do whatever you want. But then like once they talked about how there's like Allison Janney's like son bought out the contract of a sim, so I think like they have to work the job they're built for. But this movie has nothing to say about that.
No.
Until their contracts get bought out, and they don't even make it clear that that's what is happening.
No, and at best, the moments where I like this movie is where they're like, we don't have anything to say about that. And we're not trying to.
No, they weren't trying to.
They weren't trying. At no point.
There's no commentary about AI in this film.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
And that's fine in a way. That's fine. I'm like, Avatar thinks it's saying something. This movie doesn't, and there's something fine about that.
It's weird though. I think you're right that the movie doesn't think it's saying something, but it's weird for a movie to be so beautiful and real, and to not really have a lot to say. I think what like throws the vibes of it off. Of like, wow, it's so sci-fi, but it's so grounded, and the VFX is so realistic that it's weird that they are just like shallow.
Yeah.
There's not like, it's not a movie that I'm like gonna lay at night and be like, oh man, what is sentience? Like, what does humanity mean? Like, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I have felt more for like a single episode with Data on TNG than I feel for any robot in this
absolutely.
movie. So like, I also think the movie does a disservice in that like none of the AI characters are like fully fleshed out. Even the little girl barely talks, but she's like half human or something weird.
Yeah.
So it's not like I get to like know one of them like you do Data on Star Trek or something, and you're like, oh man, is this a human? Like, is this life?
Yeah.
That's not what this movie cares about.
No. Yeah, the episode where Data makes a daughter.
Oh my God. Incredible.
Yeah. That has more to say in 42 minutes than this entire movie does about so what is sentience, what is parenthood.
What is like being a species? Like, is it reproductive? Is it being loved? Is it caring for others? Oh my God. Yeah. This movie doesn't have anything to say about any of that.
Doesn't have any of it at all, but it looks good when it doesn't say anything.
It looks good. Here's the thing that annoyed me also. I'm just a random thing that threw me off.
Yeah.
I will never say this again in my life. I'm very annoyed that they weren't more clear about that child getting shot. Because the kid gets shot and she gets like bundled up in blankets, and I'm like, do you have blood or not?
Oh, interesting.
Because like then she goes to get like fixed, air quote.
This was a big plot hole that bothered me because to get fixed, they were like, we got to take you to the Nirmata to the child gets shot. It's like, we got to take you to Nirmata. And they go to Nirmata and never address that the child was shot.
Yeah, they never talk about like if they fixed her or what was wrong with her or show you the bullet wound. And I don't want to see a child hurt, but for plot purposes, I need to know if you have blood, which is very different than the other Sims, or if you are just a robot with flesh on top.
For me, it wasn't even that bothered me.
Oh, that wasn't bothered you?
Well, it was just
How'd they fix her?
How'd they fix her? Like,
Because she's the most advanced one ever made.
And the whole point was, it was Ken Watanabe's character was just like, we have to go do this because we don't know how to fix her. She's too advanced for us to fix her. And if we ignore this, she'll die. And then a scene later, it's just not a problem anymore.
No, she's just fine. She was like, I just needed to cuddle my mom for a minute.
They get to Nirmata, which is the creator / her mom, who is also the best AI creator. And that woman's in a coma and doesn't do anything to fix the child. And the child's just fine from there on out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge problem for me. I was like, what are we doing here?
It did feel like this movie had 3 endings by the end of it. I was like, we keep going in for the close and then going to a new location.
Yeah, like this movie doesn't have that bad a runtime of 2 hours 10, but it makes you think it's over really soon. Not really soon, but like an hour 45, you think it's the final battle.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, we're still going to go blow up Nomad on a separate mission? That's going to take a minute.
Yes. Yeah. So a couple too many endings here. So it really kind of goes in for that. And
I can agree with that.
Plot holes as it goes on. I do want to say as well, I did like just Allison Janney playing a badass. I was on board with that. I thought that she did a great job of this, somewhat stereotypical general commander, I'm the one causing a problem character. She was in this, not to reference like our own podcast or like assume that everybody's watched all of the movies that we've covered, but she was in this what Susan Sarandon should have been in Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Because remember, when we were talking about Blue Beetle, we were like, what is Susan Sarandon doing? Make a choice. And like Blue Beetle isn't that deep, but you've got to do something.
I have to feel like you're villainous or you have emotions.
And this was one where I'm like, this movie isn't that deep, but Allison Janney showed up and just fucking gave it. And it works. She does a great job, I think.
She did just fucking give it. Yeah, I feel like they added the scars on her face because I just visually look at her and I'm not like general in a hardened war, but she does like feel like she's committed to the cause. That little speech she gives about her son being gutted by AI for some reason. I don't know. They steal your skin, maybe? I don't know what that was all about. But it was a really good speech. Plot-wise, I don't know what the hell it was about. But her performance of it was incredible. And I did believe she was this dedicated that she's going to like go through a foreign country alone and keep hunting this thing. And she just wants to kill it so bad. Yeah, she is also very interesting to watch. And you're very drawn to her. In a role that is very forgettable for most actors. Yeah. The just military general who wants things done is quite toss-assideable in a lot of films. Like it's very hard for an actor to be like, this is memorable and cool and interesting.
Yeah. And especially when like I think the movie does a really good job of giving her that little moment. Even if it is, a little bit gobbledygook or a little bit like, what are we trying to say or like whatever. But it gives Allison Janney a moment to act outside of a character archetype. And she nails the character archetype. But it's like, here is a scene where you get to shed a tear. It establishes the connection between you and your like general who sees you crying and then gets everyone back on task. Like, it establishes relationships. It allows you to give a strong performance to really own a scene. It adds 1,000% value to who this character and what this performance is. And even without it, she was still doing a great job of a 2-dimensional archetype. And this added just a little something where it's like, oh yeah, no, you're a great actor who deserves a little slice of a moment, even if it's not the central part of this movie.
Yeah, and I really appreciate Gareth Edwards kind of just casting her against type. Like like small women are not usually cast as like badass military general unless that's the focus of the whole movie.
Sure.
So to have just a side character like badass lady in charge, I was like, I really like that. Thank you very much. That's not Rosa Sparks to me.
It's catching on.
That's just genuinely good to me. I like that.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is genuinely good. So I liked her. I liked her performance there. I thought it was a delight.
I thought it was very good. And then there's like this is a weird thing the movie did. I don't know if I'm gonna end on this, but it's a thing I'm gonna throw out there. The animal stuff in this film is weird.
I almost forgot about the animal stuff.
There is 3 distinct animal sequences in this film. The first one is they threaten to shoot a dog, and they don't, thankfully. I will say, of all the animal stuff, none of the animals get harmed, even though every time I think they're going to.
Yes.
And I didn't like that.
No, I really did think they were going to. I didn't like that. I thought it was a little heavy-handed in being like, the movie opens with to just to sidetrack and then get us right back there.
Of course.
As you mentioned earlier, like the opening was like a little dark and you didn't know what was going on. I really liked the opening and where it started going. I was like, oh, we're having this conversation of like, we don't know who the bad people, like we don't know who to root for right now. Like, are we rooting for AI or are we rooting for the humans? Who are we rooting for here? And then it very quickly goes, well, one of these groups of people pick up dogs and put a gun to their head. And it's like, it feels very, very like, are we the baddies?
Yeah.
We have a skull on our helmet.
Yeah, and then they have like a later scene where one of the AIs is like petting a cat, and the cat's like, I love AI.
Yeah, they really use the animals like AI and humans
Except
threaten
one
animals.
time they don't. They reverse it. That dog that picks up the grenade and blows up a bunch of robots.
The dog didn't understand. The dog wanted to play with the robots.
Oh, the dog was just playing fetch.
dog was playing with the dog made a whoopsie.
The dog made a whoopsie because the monkey seemed to make an active decision to blow up those cops. The monkey was full ACAB.
That was where they lost me. Not that the monkey was ACAB, but that the monkey had any understanding of what was going on.
The monkey was given a detonator button and like was like, yep, I'll wait till the humans are on the bridge and then I will blow up the bomb. And I'm like, you're just a monkey, right? Like, are you a robot monkey?
This felt like a fraction of a second of Shia LaBeouf in the Crystal Skull of the like, and now the monkeys are part of it. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing?
Monkeys have not been part of it.
Traditionally throughout this movie, they have not known or had any skin in the game for the human AI war.
Which is weird because monkeys are way closer to humans than they are robots. There are, our relatives.
Yeah.
In a way. So yeah, the monkey blowing people up, I was like, this is the moon of this act.
Yes.
Act 2 had a monkey blowing people up. Act 3 had the moon of just like things that don't fit this film.
Yeah.
The vibes you've set down.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that dog was playing fetch.
Yeah.
I thought he made an active choice of like, fuck robots.
Oh.
Like he'd been trained.
The monk, that's why I'm like, the dog made a whoopsie. The monkey made a choice.
The monkey made a choice.
The monkeys had chosen a side in the war. And that's fucked up. That's more fucked up than any metaphor in this movie.
The sequel of this movie is like Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
And the monkeys are now involved. And it's humans, it's AI, and it's monkeys.
How? Yeah.
It's a 3-tier system.
and moon. Don't forget
And
the fourth heat is moon. You need
That's
moon.
where we sent the wolves.
Oh,
Werewolves
okay.
on the Moon.
Werewolves on the Moon, a story I have been writing for some time that is a mixed bag of trying to figure out how that would work. That monkey made a choice. But I'm happy no dogs were harmed on camera.
I
That's
am
good.
really glad, because I don't like that it made me feel like it would be. So if you haven't seen this film yet, even though you listened to this whole episode, the dogs do not get hurt, even though it seems like they're gonna.
Dogs are fine.
Dogs are fine.
Well, I'm feeling pretty good about The Creator. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about the creator.
Well, in that scenario, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask the final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you are listening to this right now by making sure that you're subscribed and then leaving a rating or review. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us get seen by new listeners. It helps us grow and expand and just generally be successful. And also we read them and it makes us happy.
Man, that's a lot of good stuff Andrew just listed. Successful, happy, warms our hearts, puts us up the charts. No reason not to leave a 5-star review, you guys.
No reason not to. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on Patreon, which is our monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget. You decide. If you have $1 to spare, you can sign up at the $1 level and you will get our webcomic early. As well, if you do want to sign up at the $3 level, at the $3 level, you get our podcasts early and ad-free. So you could be listening to this podcast on a Saturday as opposed to the Monday that this is going to be released.
We've already established the date this was recorded.
We have already established it.
Clearly stated for the record.
So you can get them early and ad-free for $3 a month. At $10 a month, you get an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month.
Yes, the bonus episode is something we've never covered on the regular podcast. It's ad-free. It's a movie we won't have talked about. It's a full episode, and you get access to the entire backlog when you sign up. And also, recently, Patreon worked with Spotify, and now all of our episodes are available on Spotify if you're
Super
at that
convenient.
level. So it's really easy to listen to the episodes now.
If you listen to your podcast on Spotify, you can link it with your Patreon, and it shows up like within the a little like micro button within the feed. It's super cool. It's really well integrated. But also, if you don't use Spotify, you can just listen to it right from the Patreon page or plug it into a lot of other podcast providers as well.
Yeah, you'll get your own personal RSS feed, and you just pop that into whatever you listen to.
So just head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes to become a patron today. And thank you to all of our current, past, and future patrons.
Thank you so much, patrons. We love you so much.
And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
This one's a tough one because I don't really think there's a lot wrong here, but as you said, it's not very deep. But like, I think making this movie have more of a theme is such an overhaul that it's kind of tough. I'm going to make my change to something that like they kind of seeded in and didn't use very well, which is that you can put people's brain patterns into a sim. Now, currently, the technology only allows you to do it for a few seconds, but Maya is the creator, and she is the most powerful computer person alive. So I'm going to say that she's actually not in a coma and he finds her, but she has put her own brain into a sim. And now Joshua has to decide whether he still loves her or can love a sim. And I think he hasn't bonded with the kid as much, and I never felt like he bonded with her anyway. So I think this is more of a turning point of him of deciding like, are Sims people or not? Because in the opening of this movie, he is very like, you're the woman I love. And if she still exists, but in a robot body, will he still be able to love her? I think is actually like interesting and something to kind of break apart and dissect. So I don't know where that goes for sure, but I think it's interesting. And I think the way that they used the brain in the robot in this was not very interesting, where she's just alive on the ship for a few seconds, because also she would not have been happy to see him. From her perspective, it's 5 years ago and he just betrayed her.
Yeah.
Because she went into the coma during that attack.
Yeah, she just ran away and got bombed, and she ran away from him, hating him.
She does not have 5 years of memories in between. She doesn't know that he has saved the child. She has no knowledge of any of this.
Yeah, we never got into that, but I agree that also sucked
She
and
would
made no
have
sense.
slapped him in the face.
Yeah.
Is what she would have done. So yeah, I actually think she should have never comed. She's used her new tech abilities to put herself into a robot, like for realsies. So it's like, what is AI? Am I a human or am I AI? There's more interesting questions to ask then. And that's going to be my change.
I like that.
Thank you. Andrew, what would you change?
My change, I agree with you on your wavelength of like to make it give a theme involves a complete and total rewrite and revisit. It's a lot of work to do to make it kind of deeper and hard to concisely describe in a change. So my simple change is that I think we should actually spend more time with a robot and know what their culture and value is, because like this movie really does a pretty consistent job of what feels like the Nathan Fielder meme of like, here's me with my friends, they're all just out of frame laughing too. Where like every time that they're talking about their like robots, the Sims, they're also people. They have their own very unique culture and loves and likes and dislikes, and they're just over there out of frame. Don't look at them. Don't talk to them. Don't wonder what their music or society is like. Do not worry about it.
Yeah,
I'm Gemma Chan, a human person, And trust me when I tell you that off camera, I've learned the lesson that they have a full and rich culture and people. And Ken Watanabe is a sim who we have no idea what his likes, dislikes, interest, or history is. At one point, he calls John David Washington brother, finds out they were betrayed, and then later calls him brother again. But there was nothing in between. I'm like, what do you like? Mm-hmm. What do you do? How do you spend your free time in between being a freedom fighter? I want this movie to be more John David Washington and Ken Watanabe.
I can absolutely get behind that.
Because I want to get to know a robot. Because the kid
is a hybrid.
The kid isn't
the same.
I agree. Is a hybrid, isn't the same. And the kid's perspective in this movie is about the kid impersonating and becoming as human as possible while watching Joseph, his dad. So it's about this kid being like, can I be as much like you as possible? This kid doesn't have the simulant's culture, likes, dislikes, society. This kid is just parroting what their father figure and actual kind of father is doing. So the kid is not at all representative of what this whole, the film is telling us is a species is. Mm-hmm. So I want to see more of that, and I think Ken Watanabe's character is the proxy to do that. I think it should be like always a buddy action story with these two.
Always more Ken Watanabe,
and he deserves better
in pretty much everything. Yeah, I can totally get behind this because there is a lack of for a movie that's like they're human and you should care about them. The movie doesn't care about them. We spend so much time with Gemma Chan being like, I was raised by the AI. I'm like, can I see that? Can I see them take care of you? Can I see them what their culture is? Because also so much of their culture is just our culture.
Yeah.
All those Buddhist monks robots we see at the end. I'm like, but what's your music? What's your religion? What do you guys do when you hang out? This feels more like when I say that when AI writes a book, it just takes all the other books humans have written and makes a book out of it.
Yeah.
That makes me feel less human to me.
And I think that's where this movie crosses over a little bit into the offensive, where it's it's not a metaphor for Asian culture. It is Asian culture. It just is that, but with robots that we don't quite see.
That we don't humanize.
That we don't humanize, other than them fulfilling this postcard visual identity that we consider the Asian continent to be.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm I want to get to know one of these people, and I think it should be Ken's.
I agree. I think this is a great change. I think it would really help the emotional turmoil.
Journey.
The interest.
The turmoil.
Lots of words.
The interest, the emotions.
The trajectories.
You got to think about that. Well, I'm feeling pretty good about The Creator. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good about The Creator.
Love it. Well, that is going to be it for us. Next week on the podcast, we are going to be back and we are going to be talking about Ahsoka.
Entire season 1 of Ahsoka, or maybe the only season of Ahsoka. I don't know what the plans for Ahsoka are.
We'll be talking about the up to recent amount of Ahsoka, depending on when you listen to this, because people can also listen to it in the future, I guess. But season 1 of Ahsoka is what we'll be talking about next week. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me online. I am on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Ivimey, Ivimey.
I'm at Tumblr at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us at FromSuperheroes.com, where you can find all the other podcasts on our network, our webcomic, and so much more. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.